Stay up to date on the latest in music with Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light. Join the Sound Up Pod Squad simply by liking our Facebook, following us on X, and signing up for our weekly newsletter at sounduppod.com.
This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
Hey, I'm Mark Goodman.
And I am Alan Light.
This week on Sound Up, Adam Duritz of Counting Crows talks about their new album, Butter Miracle, The Complete Suites, and more.
Really great conversation with Adam. Sometimes you get what you get with Adam Duritz. It was a really good day when we talked to him. So looking forward to you guys hearing that. Also, the original members of R.E.M. released a benefit EP, and the music world says goodbye to a couple of more folks this week. This feels like a standing segment at this point. We lost a real warrior, Mike Peters of the Alarm, and also terrible story, singer-songwriter Jill Sobule passed.
Man, oh man. Plus, we do have our new music picks, as always, and your comments, all happening on Sound Up as we get into it.
Lots to get through, including that both of us got to a show. I think we ended up both getting to a show the same night last week. I believe we had a busy Friday night. So
It's true. It's true. I was thrilled to get to see, for the first time since 1980, whatever, Alison Moyet, who I was so excited to see. I'm a huge fan of hers and have been following her back since Yaz days. And just, I know that she dropped out of music for a while and has come and gone quite a bit and really was not clear on where she was at. And then I started to hear some of her stuff over the last couple of years that sounds really, really great. And seeing her live at Webster Hall was kind of the perfect venue. The set list I thought was so great. Obviously, people that, the Yaz stuff people are more than familiar with, and even a couple of her solo things. But for America, Alison Moyet is not who she is in the UK. Nonetheless, and I've seen some great shows at this hall, like amazing years ago. U2 I saw at this hall. And of course, you would imagine the place is like the rafters are shaking. That's what this show was like for her. She stepped onto the stage and it was palpable in the room. It was really, really exciting and wonderful to see. She was gobsmacked at the response that she got. She wasn't even expecting it, but a great set. And, as you would expect, some of the bigger ones, Don't Go wound up at the end of the set. The one thing that surprised me about Alison Moyet's set was the biggest song solo that she had here was a song called Invisible. And she didn't do it. And I was like, what? And I went back to all the dates that she has played on this trip, and she's not doing it at all. I don't know why. I wish I could have gotten back to talk to her about it, but I missed that song. But otherwise than that, wow. Her voice holds up. And one of the things, and I think this is the case with her most recent music, is she's very much aware of the passage of time. She's very much aware of how old she is. She's aware of where she is in her career, and she's embracing it. And she talked a bit to us, to the audience, about how much better prepared she is to do the job that she is doing, how happy she is. She's, over the years, if you follow her, she's talked about battling not only depression, but agoraphobia. And she's had some real struggles that she has come out on the other side stronger. And it's reflected in the music over her last several years, especially, but also just in her general attitude from the stage. And her tour continues. So if you know that she's coming to your town and you ever liked Alison Moyet, I would say definitely hit that show if you can.
So do we know why she's out now? Is there something new? Is there something she's promoting? Is it just she felt like it was time? Because I didn't even know this show was happening. I was not in town, as I will explain, but I hadn't even seen any mention of this.
There is no specific new album that she talked about. So that's my answer to that.
Yes, okay. It was time. It was time.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, that same night on Friday. So I was actually in my hometown of Cincinnati this weekend. I was back to go speak at my high school. Can't beat that. Can't ask for anything more than that. And while I was setting up this trip, the faculty member who was working out my schedule at the school said, listen, just so you know, me and one of the other teachers, we are driving up to Columbus on Friday night to go see Nick Cave, just in case you're interested.
Sure.
As it happens, I had to miss the Nick Cave show in New York City. He played at Barclays Center a couple of weeks ago, and it's while I was out of town on vacation. And my only regret from being on vacation was missing that show, which everybody said was so spectacular. And I've just kept hearing people talk about it since I've been back. So what else was I going to do on a Friday night in Ohio? I didn't have anything else going on. So took them up about an hour and a half drive from that end of Cincinnati where we were up to Columbus. Not a bad drive at all, other than having to do it through some thunderstorms, but that's its own thing. And in New York City, Nick Cave can play the Barclays Center, 19,000 people, however many people go there. In Columbus, Ohio, he was playing the Palace Theater, about 2,500 seats, maybe. Wow. One of these old, like the Beacon here or wherever. It's, an old and refurbished, really beautiful old theater, a couple of thousand people. This show was as spectacular as everybody was telling me it was going to be. I'm not like a ride or die Nick Cave fan. I'm interested in Nick Cave. There's stuff that I like. I find him a compelling presence and story and all of that. But I hadn't seen him in years other than little event type of stuff. And my God, he was just extraordinary. This was a Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds tour, which I guess it's about 8 years, I think, since he's gone out with the Bad Seeds as a band, which included his, crazy sidekick Warren Ellis making all his weird noises on his violins and his tenor guitar and just generally, shaking things up. Colin Greenwood from Radiohead playing bass.
Wow.
In this configuration of the band.
Huh.
And I'm just really eager. I need to compare notes with people who went to the Brooklyn show because there was something so intensely, I don't know if intimate is the right word, but there was so much interaction with the audience. There was so much like call and response back and forth. Nick running into like he used to do, sort of diving into the audience, going up and down the aisles at one point, going over the seats, across at one point. Obviously, he wasn't doing any of that at the Barclays Center. And it was he played about 2 hours and 40 minutes, non-stop.
Yeah.
And it was one of those shows that went from like very intense, quiet, personal, profound stuff into this like explosive, dark rock and roll thing where you're watching him like, again, running through the audience, whatever. And is this the same show that like 2 songs ago he was at the piano and doing, the guy I went with said afterwards, he's like, I want to borrow the Springsteen phrase, and it's like part baptism, part exorcism, which is fair enough, but it's almost like part baptism, part, dark ritual. Like it goes darker than the exorcism part is the release of this. Of course, with Nick Cave, sometimes you're leaning into, the pain of it. But I thought it was a fantastic show. So glad that I got to catch up with this tour. Everybody's been raving about it. And Columbus, what the hell? Why not? Why not make it out to Columbus to see Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds?
So the one question I have, did he do what must be now his biggest hit in the United States? Red Right Hand?
Yes, yeah. He did do it. Near the end of the set, didn't close the set with it, but did it. Lots of big audience on the la, 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 the whole room doing that. And him sort of stalking the stage and he's got that sort of, evangelist fever thing going when he hits a song like that. But just an extraordinary night. And I know I've gotten notes from some of our listeners who are going. I know as he's continuing to swing through the Midwest and then out West, a bunch of people who are planning to go to these shows would love to hear your thoughts. If you make it out to see Nick Cave, you can always let us know. connect@sounduppod.com is the address. And as you just said for Alison Moyet, I do urge you, don't miss this one if you got a shot at it.
Yeah. I was sorry I missed him here as well. I knew he was coming and there was no way that was going to work for me. I've never seen him. And now even more so now, damn it. So
yeah, this was a keeper.
Yeah. All right.
So got some headlines, got a couple of news things we'll get into here.
We do. Some strange, some interesting, some wonderful. Well, let's start off with the fact that R.E.M. is putting out music again. whatever that means. I'm down with that.
Not new music, but music
No.
that we haven't heard.
Right.
Yes, the R.E.M. put out a new EP, 5 tracks called Radio Free Europe 2025, with previously unreleased tracks and a new remix of their breakthrough single, I guess, the song that we all discovered R.E.M. with, Radio Free Europe. But the point of this really is what it's for. The proceeds from this vinyl pressing will benefit the U.S. government's Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty, which are under attack from the Trump administration. The release of this EP coincides with the 75th anniversary of Radio Free Europe, as well as World Press Freedom Day, which was on May the 3rd, on Saturday. Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty currently broadcast news and information in 27 languages to 23 countries where a free press is either banned by the government or under threat. Michael Stipe said in a statement, whether it's music or a free press, censorship anywhere is a threat to the truth everywhere. On World Press Freedom Day, I'm sending a shout out to the brave journalists at Radio Free Europe. Mike Mills said Radio Free Europe's journalists have been pissing off dictators for 75 years, and you know you're doing your job when you make the right enemies. So yeah, though they've been clear always that Radio Free Europe actually has nothing to do, that the song has nothing to do with the broadcaster at all. They just like the words Radio Free Europe to use them as a title. They are using it to do some good work. Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty President Stephen Capus said, "To me, R.E.M's music has always embodied a celebration of freedom of expression, lyrics that make us think, and melodies that inspire action. Those are the very aims of our journalists at Radio Free Europe. We hold dictators accountable. They go to great lengths to silence us, blocking our websites, jamming our signals, and even imprisoning our colleagues." In March, the current president issued an executive order to dismantle Voice of America, which oversees Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and others. The broadcasters have won court rulings to reverse the move, but the White House has continued to withhold funding, leading to layoffs and uncertainty at the outlets. So, released through Craft Recordings, who have been doing all these R.E.M. reissues recently. 5 tracks on here, a new remix by Jackknife Lee, Grammy-winning producer who produced R.E.M's final 2 studio albums, plus the A and B side of their original single on Hibtone Records. With that mix, Radio Free Europe and Sitting Still, the B side. A previously unreleased Mitch Easter remix from 1981 called Radio Free Dub, and a demo of White Tornado, which was released on cassette in I don't know what year. If I look, maybe it says. It doesn't say that. It just says the demo. But that's never been available in any other format before. So some from the vault, a new mix on the hit, all for a cause very much in need of support right now.
I'm calling it right now. R.E.M., the original 4 members, have popped up here and there in a bunch of different places over the last couple months. Now you get this release. Calling it right now.
Yeah.
R.E.M. Coachella next year.
So it's a full year since we just came off of Coachella, but
that would sell some tickets, and I understand this year was, I mean, look, it sold out ultimately, but it was
took a lot longer.
Slow, definitely.
We know they've been going after the R.E.M. Reunion and the Talking Heads reunion for many years. So it's just a question of them saying yes.
We got this Jill Sobule story is so tragic. It is so sad, and what a shock. The singer-songwriter whose hits have included that legendary satirical anthem "Supermodel" from the Clueless movie and the groundbreaking single "I Kissed a Girl" has died in a house fire at just 66 years old. Her body was found in a home in Woodbury, Minnesota, Thursday. Authorities are investigating the cause of the fire. John Porter, her manager, confirmed her death in a statement to the Minnesota Star-Tribune. Jill Sobule was a force of nature and human rights advocate whose music is woven into our culture. I was having so much fun working with her, Porter said in a statement. I lost a client and a friend today. I hope her music, memory, and legacy continue to live on and inspire others. The website has been saying that she was due to perform on Friday in Denver to showcase songs from her autobiographical stage musical, Fuck the Seventh Grade, FCK, the Seventh Grade, nominated in 2023 for a Drama Desk Award. Remembered for a diverse body of music that ranged from deeply intimate to socially conscious themes, and a recording career that spanned a dozen albums starting in 1990. The one that she worked with Todd Rundgren on, the debut album, Things Here Are Different. Her eponymous 1995 album, including her two biggest hits, Supermodel, the Hollywood coming-of-age comedy Clueless, and I Kissed a Girl. That's where I first heard of her for sure. The song drew renewed attention in 2008 when Katy Perry released a different single of her own with the same title. We are all wondering what the hell happened, and her cause of death has not been revealed yet, and the cause of the fire has not been revealed yet. The toxicology report I've read could take 6 to 8 weeks, and I would imagine that information on where the fire started should come well before that.
I guess so. I mean, cause of death, I don't gather that there's any particular question or mystery, but cause of what the fire was.
Right.
Well, I mean, you never know. Who knows? I don't know. I mean...
And she wasn't home. She was at a friend. This was at a friend's house.
Right. This was not her home that burned down. Right. She was away. So a lot of questions remain. And did she die in the fire, or did she die before the fire? And, something happened, who knows?
But I was just really blown away. I don't know, the response from within the songwriter community was just unbelievable. Everybody talked about working with her, sharing bills with her, that she did these different songwriter seminars, events, whatever. And it just seemed like that whole world, everybody had some interaction and something great to say about her as an artist, as an activist, as a human being. It was pretty, I realize that I live in a bubble where a lot of sort of New York City area songwriters are people that I hear from or see posting or whatever it is, but it just seemed like everybody had a history with Jill Sobule and had really remarkable things to say about her.
Yeah, a real tragedy for sure. Finally, this is one, Roger, I feel like I want to hand this one over to you. We got the word late just before the weekend that Mike Peters had finally succumbed to his longtime cancer diagnosis.
Obviously different than the Jill Sobule, the sudden shock of somebody dying that way. This was something that we'd had a long, long time to be thinking about and preparing for in some ways, but
still
no way
tragic.
No way to fully be ready.
And Roger, I know we want you to handle this one because I know that you had a special relationship with Mike. I think you and I, several years ago, when maybe you can remind me what the documentary on, his trek up to Kilimanjaro and that radio show the performance rather, that he did when was that? Like 10 years ago?
The Everest?
Yeah.
The documentary was, I don't know the day. It was the Man in the Camo Jacket was the documentary.
Right. I feel like it was 10 years ago.
And, documented his first, when he had started Love, Hope, and Strength, and took that trek of cancer survivors and musicians and friends up to base camp at Mount Everest, my brother included, who's also, part of the foundation. Yeah, it's been a while since that came out. And that's the thing. And that was, years after Mike's diagnosis as well. This is something he's been fighting for literally decades. And to say that, this wasn't really a shock, it kind of was, only in the sense that Mike has defied the odds so many times. I mean, so many times with so many different treatments and things. And he just kept bouncing back and going back on the road and making more albums that I really felt that he was going to just keep beating it every single chance he could, which was unrealistic to think, but he just kept doing it. And it's a tremendous, tremendous loss.
An inspiration, the way that he faced his diagnosis and setbacks, and he would get above it. And the way his bravery is really, really moving, and I think inspirational. I feel as though for all of us, as the years pass, all of us are more and more and more are losing friends like this. how many people do we know? How many have I lost, I know, in the last 2-3 years from cancer? And I feel it's all of us. It's touching all of us now.
Roger, do you want to talk some about your history with Mike? Because this is more than just a fan thing.
Yeah.
It's, well, I don't know where to start, and I don't want to get too choked up about it. And I did post something on my socials, and I'll put it on our socials as well. But I'll tell you a couple quick things. The first is the story that I did put on socials, which is when I was a kid, when I was in high school. I think I was a senior in high school. I was already an Alarm fan. I was a huge Alarm fan. So was my older brother, Alex, who at the time was working at WNEW-FM. And the Alarm were coming up to the station. He couldn't bring me up to the station, so I just asked, please, can you get me an autograph? The Alarm comes up, and Alex got autographs for a lot of people, I think, that day. And when it came time to get one from me, I think they had run out of things to sign. And he had said, hey, can you sign something for my brother? And they were about to release the Eye of the Hurricane album. And Mike pulled out a copy and signed it, handed it to the rest of the band, handed it to my brother. And it's hanging on my wall in front of me right now. And it says, to Roger, this is the very first ever autographed copy of Eye of the Hurricane. So that was the first note Mike ever wrote to me. Sitting behind me right now, Mike's book, part 1 of 3 parts, Love, Hope, and Strength, the love version, was sent to me about a month ago. And before he sent it to me, he sent me a note, texted me and said, hey, he had just gotten out of the hospital. I said, sorry about the delay on the book. There was a mix-up with your copy and Bono's. I don't know what the mix-up was. He never got to tell me the whole story.
I can see it's an easy confusion.
But the book came with, I opened it up and there was a note from Mike, and it just said, to Roger, brother. And that was the last thing he wrote to me. So just having those 2 things in front of me all the time means the world to me. But the thing I want to say about Mike, aside from me being a massive Alarm fan and loving that band and loving his music and loving every lyric he wrote and loving how great he was as a performer and being able to become friends with him and his wife, Jules, and his kids. Mike sang at my wedding. I mean, we have such a long
I didn't know
history.
That. Wow.
Yeah. But the thing I will say about Mike, and the thing that really has kind of stayed with me more than anything was, I started playing drums as early as I could hold drumsticks. And I grew up just wanting to be in a band. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be famous. All of those things that you want to be when you want to be a musician. And, throughout my late teens, early 20s, I was in a ton of bands and played all over. And, your goal is you just want to be recognized. You want someone to say you're good enough and that you're good enough to be with these other professional musicians. And I don't even remember the year at this point, but I think I was around 23 or 24. Mike had disbanded the Alarm and was working on his first solo album. And he had seen me play in the band I was in at the time, The Missing. And he had finished the solo album, but wasn't happy with it. And he called me up and he said, hey, I've got a couple songs that I don't like the way they're coming out. Would you mind playing drums on them? So we went into, I think it was Right Track Studios. I'm not 100% sure, but it was one of the major studios here in the city. And he had this version of The Message by Grandmaster Flash that he had recorded. And I was recording the drums on that. And the whole song was already recorded. And normally you put drums on first, not last. So it was a tricky recording session to do. And I'm a kid. I was living home at the time. Alex picked me up with my drums, brought me to the city, set them up, and I did this recording, which should have been like the greatest day of your life, but I was really nervous and I really wanted to do a good job. And I kind of left there like just hoping I didn't screw up and just do a crap job. And a couple of weeks later, Mike called me up and said, thank you. The album's done. Like, it can go out now. And that's what made me feel like it just made it worth it. So, Mike, I love you. Thank you.
It's a great moments, memory, stories. And again, how many people have, maybe not that story, but how many people had relationships, history, would talk about the things that he did for them, the ways that he reached out to them. That's it. the guy's spirit runs so, so far and wide.
And Alex and I wound up, my brother's an excellent guitar player, bass player. Because of that, because of our love of the Alarm, and not only that, because of our love of punk rock and Mike's love of the Clash and our love of the Clash, we wound up playing with Mike in various scenarios where there wasn't a band around or he just wanted to do something fun. He did a Christmas show at Bowery Electric that Alex and I and our good friend Brian McVernon, an Australian rockabilly singer, songwriter, guitar player, played with him under the name The Snow Cones. And we did a bunch of Christmas songs. Yeah, and we played with Mike with an orchestra at a festival, played with him at an after party in Wales. Like it was just amazing to get to do those things with him. So many memories, so many great times with him and the family and his wife and friends. It's just a tremendous loss, and he will be forever remembered and missed.
For sure. And Roger, I can ask about his wife. She's okay?
Jules is just an amazing, like Mike, an amazing person who, had her own cancer battle.
When he founded Love, Hope, and Strength, they were both battling cancer at the same time. Am I right? It was right around that time?
No, when he first founded it, it was just him.
It was?
She wound up being diagnosed later and had her fight, and they were there for each other.
Yeah.
But she's, if you follow Jules on social media, she's another warrior that is just getting through this, doing what Mike would want, which is to celebrate and be happy and move forward and just live life to the fullest, because that's what he did every single day.
All right. Definitely. He will be missed. Strange news today. Definitely some strange stuff. But we've got great news in just a moment. If you stay right where you are, a great conversation upcoming with the one and only Adam Duritz. There is new Counting Crows music on the way, and we'll talk about that with Adam next.
Welcome back. It's Sound Up, and we've got a special guest joining us right about now. In 2021, Counting Crows released Butter Miracle Suite 1, as the title indicated, a suite of songs that Adam Duritz had written during the pandemic, several songs flowing together into one piece. That was the challenge that he set for himself. But at the time, Adam said, I was thrilled with how it turned out, and I had no plans to do anything else. But then I started thinking it's only half a record, so maybe I should write enough songs for a full album. Went right after that and wrote the rest of the songs on my friend's farm in England. 4 years later, here we are with the rest of those songs, part 2 coming out, which will be available as Butter Miracle, the complete suites. Spaceman in Tulsa, the first single from the project, is out now. And to explain what all has been going on, welcome Adam Duritz. Good to see you.
Hey, guys.
So walk us through. We've got this coming. Before we came on, Roger was like, is this a new album? Is this the continuation of the other? What is it that this project is made up of?
I don't know. It is what it is. I was excited after the suite. I really loved it. I went and wrote some more, and the delay happened because on the way home from the farm, I stopped in London. I had sung on my friend's album. My friend Dave has this band called Gang of Youths, Australian band, and I had sung on their new album, but they had kind of scrapped it and started over, recording it differently, much more ambitiously. And I went to sing on it again on the way home. And after I got home a little while later, they sent it to me. And this album called Angel in Real Time, which I think is an absolutely spectacular record. And in listening to it, I just kind of realized how good it was and how these new songs weren't really at that level. I've never had it happen to me before where I second guess something I'd finished. I usually know when I'm done, but I went back to the drawing board with these songs. I tightened up Spaceman in Tulsa. It had too many parts to it. I really honed it down to the song it is now. I left Virginia Through the Rain the same. I still think it's perfect. I rewrote the song that became Under the Aurora. The verses are the same, although they're in a slightly different order, but I rewrote the entirely new choruses for that song that became Under the Aurora. It wasn't called that before. I hadn't finished Boxcars really. I wrote a bunch of stuff for this record that was a little more ambitious than my ability to play. And so it was hard because although I had songs in my head and I knew what they were, I couldn't play them very well, especially Boxcars, which was so guitar based that I couldn't really play it at all on the piano. And I did the work and I really felt like I'd improved the songs, but I didn't have a lot of confidence in them, I think, because this had never happened to me before where I went back to the drawing board on stuff I thought I'd finished.
This wasn't just the recordings. This wasn't just the performances. This was actually going back into the songs themselves.
Yeah, we hadn't done any recordings with them. I was so sort of insecure about the songs. I didn't even send them to the band, really. I just wasn't certain anymore that they were good. And I couldn't really figure it out by playing. Like normally I just play the songs and I know it, but these were hard to play because of the nature of the songs. And I sat with them for a couple years. And what happened was I wrote With Love from A to Z, which I thought was like sort of the defining track for the record in some ways to me. It's like what Round Here to me was then, this song now, sort of statement of purpose and where I am in life, about being an artist. And I loved it. And I was like, well, I've got this song finished. This song's great. I got to figure out what to do with the rest of them now. And I called Immer, our guitar player, and Jim and Millard, our drummer and bass player. And I said, I need everybody to come to my house in the next month. And we just need to sit in this living room and demo these songs. I got to play these songs with you guys. I need to know how they are. And I just am uncertain about it. I need to hear them with the band. And so they came and we sat in my living room, and one by one, I was like, okay, that's great. Oh, I love that. And the songs came out so well that we got really excited, and we were like, we got to go in the studio and record this. And we went in, I don't know, a few weeks later, under a month later, here in New York, and did the whole record in like 10 or 11 days. The first side, what is side A now?
Yeah.
The delay was really that I sat around for a good 2 years with those songs, just not knowing what to do with them and not having enough confidence in them. And as soon as I played them with the band, I knew how they were, but the rewrites were a good idea. That fixed everything, but I just didn't have confidence in it. And I sat with it for years.
Right. At that point, you don't know what you're looking at. Right.
Yeah. And like I said, they weren't the kind of songs I could play except for With Love from A to Z. But even that, it wasn't the way I wanted it to sound. I knew I wanted it to be a guitar song. But as soon as we started playing them with the band, it was like, oh yeah, this is great. And then we went into record them. We mixed them with Chad Blake, and they sounded so good that we went back and remixed Sweet One with Chad as well, because they just sounded so great that we thought it would improve that. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, though, it's a wholly refreshed record because the Sweet sounds so much better now with Chad's mix. And I just love the whole thing now.
So what, in the end, is the relationship between this and Sweet One? If this started as wanting to keep whatever was going on there going and, continue, now how do you feel like they sit together?
I feel like they sit great. They flow right into each other. They were written by the same people, and played by the same people. There's a relationship there or whatever it is. I don't know. They're a record.
With the first one, you talked about, and it's evident when you listen to it, the influence of Abbey Road, of early Bruce. You've got that, big Jungle Land feel on, in there. And you had this sort of glam rock thing going on too. As we're talking to you, you're wearing a Raspberries t-shirt. There was some Mott the Hoople, some T-Rex kind of glitter on top of it. Particularly as these evolved, were you still drawing from those same sources, or were there other things that were giving you direction for this set?
I mean, I can really hear the glam, especially on Spaceman in Tulsa. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never really, I don't know that influences are something you think about when you're doing it. You can kind of look back and see them. I don't know that I spend too much time, thinking that way, but I can hear it in there. It's very guitar based, but the pianos are pretty present as well. I don't know. I don't think about that stuff a lot. I mean, I guess it's for everybody to judge. I definitely hear the glam rock stuff in there for sure, but I hear Mott in my head all day anyways.
You said you sat with these songs, several of them for a couple years. Was there ever a point where you were just thinking, maybe I need to let them go and I'm just going to go start over? I'm going to write totally new songs. Like, what was it that kept these lingering there for you that you couldn't let them go?
Well, I thought they were really good. I don't know. I just, without being able to play them, well, it was hard to feel that. You know, like when Long December, I could sit on the piano and play it for you right now. It's obvious how the song is, and being able to play it really helps you know that. These were a little outside. I mean, I had them in my head, but I couldn't play them with my hands, you know, and I felt like they were really great conceptually, but they were kind of ambitious that way for me. Songwriting is a weird thing. It's not like, at least for me, it's not a job that I figured out how to do when I was 18. And then I've done it exactly the same way ever since then. You know, like when I was 18 and I wrote my first song, it changed my life. And I wrote every day for years. I just played piano and wrote songs every day. But when like when our first record came out, I started spending a year and a half at a time on tour without a piano. So like I stopped right then writing every day and started a different kind of writing where I would go a year and a half without writing anything at all. And then I would write 10 songs and make a record. Like I've never been like Bruce, who writes 30 songs and makes a record with 10 songs. Except at the beginning of my career. But once I started with like the cycles of being in this band, really, it changed completely the way I wrote, you know? And then, you know, like 10 years ago, we made a covers album and I branched out into working on this theater piece, which was the first time in my life I'd written for other characters, you know, written for female characters, people that weren't me. And that completely opened up the way I wrote, where I started writing songs that were more fictional. But what I realized is that I could put all the feelings and emotions I have into a song that's not a diary out, you know, piece. It's like I could invent characters like in Palisades Park and write a song that's about everything I feel, but I just had this whole world open up to me of different options for how to write that stuff. And that changed the way I wrote completely too. And I got to say, at first, when I started doing that, I just thought those songs weren't good. You know, because when you're talking about apples and oranges, they're just different kinds of fruit. But an orange, if what you're used to is apples, an orange can look like a really bad apple. You know what I mean? And that was like a big shock to the system there too, just like being on tour for a year and a half was. And it really changed the way I wrote and forced me to sort of like look at it entirely differently. And I went through a chunk of time where I didn't have a lot of confidence in that because of that. You know, that took a long time before Somewhere Under Wonderland, because in those years after we made Underwater Sunshine, did all those covers, and I sort of opened up the way I wrote. For a few years, I was like, I think these songs are really good, but I didn't know they were good the way I'd always known it before. And something happened with this record too, with having to go back, where I just felt like they were great, but I didn't know it. So I didn't really want to toss them at all. I just was not sure of what to do. And it's different now because it's not like the world's clamoring for a new Counting Crows record every week. So it's, you know, I could take our time, and we're touring anyway, so we work.
I was going to ask that specifically about the songwriting here because, first of all, I guess that it did initially start in lockdown and not touring and being there to work. But also they're clearly, you know, these sort of multi-part, you said some of them were just too intricate to be even able to play what you heard in your head. There's lots of parts, there's different sections, breakdowns, you know, a lot of things that are going on in these songs. Was all of that a different process for you to, you know, go and chase songs that were felt and sounded like this?
Yeah, I mean, it was, in the sense that before I would always finish songs in a sitting, usually. I mean, I might work all day and all night, but I'd finish the song in that chunk of time. Starting with some of the stuff on Somewhere Under Wonderland, there were some songs that I went back to and reworked, but I hadn't done a lot of that in my life. And on this record, Spaceman in Tulsa and Under the Aurora in particular were very reworked from how they originally were. Spaceman in Tulsa had so many parts, it was getting into like a Palisades Park way, but it didn't work like Palisades Park did. It was like, it wasn't just that it had a lot, it was long, it was like verse, pre-chorus, post-pre-chorus, chorus, post-chorus. It had all these different like sections just to get around one time around, you know, and they were cool, but it felt unwieldy, and like I wanted it to have all this drive. And I really pared it back and made it work, you know, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, slam back around, and a verse that was really sparse with this piano stuff, and a pre-chorus that built, and a chorus that was really chunky, you know, Mick Ronson-y guitars.
Yep.
And then back around, you know, just like bam, 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 hit you in the face with it. You know, I really, it was too complex before, and it just sat there. All the parts are really cool, but by the time you came back around again, it was like, oh, where did the thrust of the song go? I was so excited when I wrote it that way at first, but then I just felt like it's just laying there. It's not driving at all. And then it started to, and then it was exciting. And I wanted it to be an exciting song. Like I wanted it to really be fun and exciting and disturbing. Because it is, but it's celebration. It's like, Mr. Jones in the same way. It's about dreaming of being a rock star, but it's also about the sort of sad reality that it's not going to be what you wanted it to be. And this is a song about people going through all sorts of trauma in their life that's really terrible, but also about how art, or in my case, rock and roll, can make a place for us. And it's very celebratory about that. It's got those two sides to it, like Mr. Jones had, and because I grew up different from everybody else and felt weird and isolated as a kid. And I always wondered, I knew I had problems in my head. I wondered when I was younger how I was even going to take care of myself, and then it turns out I've got this incredible life because I can play rock and roll. And, that's, I had people say to me, how can this song be like so dark, but so fun? And I was like, well, because life is, for me, there's a joy in playing rock and roll and playing music that is everything. And I've had some really tough stuff to deal with in my life, like a lot of people have, and those two things exist in the same place. The one was the saving grace answer to the other,
Has this whole thing changed you as a songwriter? In the sense that I recently saw you perform at the Jesse Malin benefit in New York City. And, you just come across as this guy who can walk on a stage, has this toolbox of songs that you could pull out at any time and perform by yourself. But now you're writing, like you said, you're writing songs beyond that where you might not be able to do that. Like you're more dependent on people to bring these songs to life. Does that change now how you look at writing moving forward?
I don't know. I guess it seems like it's always changing, but I've always been dependent on the same group of people. I think people don't notice it. You ever have a songwriter that you followed that you went to see like in clubs, and they were really good playing by themselves on the guitar, and then they got signed and they made an album with a whole band and it's kind of flat. And, and it's because people don't realize how important a band is to a songwriter. The only person that gets any credit is the guy writing the songs. And the truth is, like, what I do is this skeleton. Like I've said this a million times. I feel like no one really believes me, but it's just some chords and some words. Like what we do as a band, all of us, to make that Counting Crows song, to make you feel these things I've written, and to make them, the fact that all these songs I've written over all these years resonate so emotionally and so like into people is because of the band. The stuff we've always done together. Like it's unappreciated because they're not necessarily the flashiest players, but what they can do is take the things I'm feeling and get them on tape or get them out live in a concert, which is a really unquantifiable thing, but it really matters. So on this record, in some ways, I was even more dependent on them because I couldn't play them myself. But I've always been trying to get off the piano as quickly as possible and get them to play it. Like I think that's like, I'm gonna give you an example on this record, like of just what you're saying. Like in the middle of the pandemic, you got these 2 years where I couldn't play at all, couldn't play gigs, and of course, like everybody, I'm going crazy running around the house. There's this riff I start like air guitaring and singing all the time. This song, it goes, coronavirus, 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 coronavirus. It's ridiculous. And I'm annoying the shit out of my girlfriend running around the house singing it all the time, And then a little while later, like I'm working on this song Boxcars, and I really want it to be this driving guitar song. It needs to drive so hard that I can't even really play it, but I'm working on it in my head. And one day it occurs to me, what about that fucking stupid riff I was singing?
Right.
And I wonder if that would work. And I kind of tried to play it on the piano. I had to call Immer and have him come over to my house one day with it and just do this on an acoustic and then go into these chords. I showed him the chords. I didn't have the words yet because I couldn't play it, I'm like, this has got to be 2 years later because it's post-pandemic and I'm working on this song, thinking about it, and like that ridiculous riff, which I never thought would have a life anywhere because it was a joke with me running around the house annoying myself. And then it turns out to be I always thought it was a great riff. And it turns out to be like the bedrock that makes this song work, but it was something I couldn't play at all. And it made a comeback somehow, this moment, that's a very different experience for me than most of my songwriting is. Cause it was like piecing together this song I'm working on with this riff that was a joke from the middle of the pandemic running in circles around my house, annoying my girlfriend, and then, which just makes it even harder to play, by the way, and more impossible that's a song I didn't even finish until after the guys came here and demoed it with me, because I had the chorus, but I didn't have the verses. But yeah, I mean, that's a really different experience for how to write something, you know?
So I don't know if this relates to any of that or not, but in the middle of all of this process around these songs was you had the 30th anniversary for August and everything after. You did some stuff around that. Is there any different perspective that came from sort of looking back to that moment? Obviously, the big songs have stuck around through the whole time, but does a landmark, a marker like that churn up anything, or any other thoughts about some of the stuff you're talking about, the relation between how you do this in the band and whatever? Does that, was that a thing?
Not really. I mean, other than making me feel old, I guess. Those anniversary things, I get why they mean something to people, but I play that song, that record, not the record, but I play those songs every gig. I mean, I have a close relation to them now, just like I did when we made the record. I mean, I don't play all of them, but a lot of those songs I play all the time. So to me, they've been there with me every day since then. And I have a very close relationship to, all those songs, a different relationship than I had when I wrote them. Believe me, writing a song about dreaming about being a rock star when you're not one, and when you've been one for 30 years is a totally different perspective, like for Mr. Jones. There are things I thought would come true, and there are things I know are true now, But no, like the years didn't really make any difference, because for me, I've been living with them forever, very closely. Oh, you know what? You mentioned the Jesse Malin thing. I want to tell you something about that night, because, I love Jesse. I've known him I met Jesse when Ryan Adams and I were making the video for Answering Bell. I flew in for a day off tour, and Jesse was sitting in this dressing room, and he had a boombox and he was playing something. I'm like, what's that? He goes, oh, it's my new record. I just made it with Ryan. My name's Jesse. And we met, and he played me and gave me like a CD that day of his first record, So it's way back. I've been friends with him forever. Immer plays in his band. So when Jesse asked us to do a song for the tribute album, I was like, of course, I wanted to do Oshina. I love that song, And when this gig came up and Immer asked me if I would play it, I said, of course, absolutely, let's do it. It'd just be me and him with Jesse's band. And I assumed we were doing Oshina because that's the one we covered, And the week before the show, I said, I need to rehearse this, because I've never sung this song except in the studio, really. I don't know. I don't even know if I know the words. I need to play it with the band a few times just to make sure I do. And Immer said, oh yeah, we're not playing Oshina. I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, Jesse wants to play it. He wants you to play Long December. And I was like, fuck. Cause I felt like I got really insecure about this, because this is a friend of mine that I've known for 20 years, or more. Yeah, about 20 years. And I don't want to be the only one there playing his own song. I thought what was going to happen was everyone's going to play Jesse songs all night, and then this one asshole is going to come out and play his own song, like I'm some kind of weird egotist, and everyone's going to hate me. And I was really feeling insecure about that. And I had said to Immer, why? And he's like, well, he really wants to play Oshina, but the real reason is that his favorite song is Long December, and he really loves it. And he just this is a really important couple nights for him. He wants you to play Long December both nights near the end of the show, And I was like, I'll do anything for Jesse. But
right.
I was really nervous about it. So nervous that when I went to the rehearsal a couple days before with Jesse's band up at SIR, I completely forgot the words to A Long December. Like the third verse, I blanked out. All 3 times we played it, I went into a complete blank in the third verse, which is really weird for me, because this is a song that I get tired of every single song except that song.
Mm-hmm.
I can play it any night, anytime. I never mind it. I never get tired of it. I love it. And so I do play it every night, every gig, really. I know the words. Okay. And I completely forgot them. So I was kind of freaked out about that. That was like a freak happening that doesn't happen to me. And, when I went up to play it in the concert, I was kind of nervous about that and just like feeling uncomfortable. And then I sat down the first night, and like the mic doesn't work and nothing's working. I'm like, all this technical stuff. And that it's funny, because that kind of calmed me down, because it allowed me to just kind of be funny and make some jokes about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started playing the song, and it was weird. There's a weird thing that's happened with that song in recent years, where it's become kind of like a Christmas standard in a way. It had this really galvanizing feeling when I was playing it. Like I could feel all this emotion swelling in the audience while I was playing it. And it really did this thing. Like, it was very powerful, and it was really cool. I didn't forget the words, and it was just really cool, but I was really nervous. And instead, what happened was I learned all this stuff about my own song that I hadn't known, like playing it in front of an audience that wasn't a Counting Crows audience. and how powerful it was for those people and how like the whole audience got like involved. And it was a weird experience. Like I was really insecure and nervous. And then it opened my own song up to me in all these ways, both nights. It was a very powerful night anyways, both those nights. Being around Jesse, it felt like a real family thing with all of us there for him. You know, people who've known him for a long time. And he, you know, what he's gone through is just out of nowhere and just horrifying.
Yeah, we had him on not too long before the shows and he was talking to us about, you know, all the and I know how much preparation he went into, not only just to be on stage, but to be able to stand as long as he did and play those songs the way he did was pretty amazing. But I was there that first night, and it was pretty funny watching you come up because you immediately kind of explained why you were going to play that song. It was like you were like, "Hey, there's a reason I'm doing it."
It's only following instructions here. I'm not.
Yeah.
So
that's covering my bases. Right. That's following orders.
That's it. So before we let you out of here, so we do a lightning round, 3 questions. But you actually just answered the first one. So we're going to be able to cut it short because the first question is, which song do you never get tired of playing? And we just got that story.
Yep.
So we don't have to go back to it. So 2 of the 3 questions. What was your first instrument? What did you first start playing and when?
I think it was piano. I had piano and guitar lessons when I was a kid, but I think I did piano first.
And that's what age?
6. My first instrument in a band was bass. When I was like 14, I was the bass player in a band. But I don't know how that happened because I can't even conceive of playing bass now. I don't know how I played bass when I was a kid. It seems the hardest instrument now, but somehow. But piano, I think, really, yeah.
And rough one, but who is your musical hero? Who did it right?
It changes day to day. Ella Fitzgerald is really big for me. Stephen Sondheim, really big for me. Alex Chilton. David Lowery. You know, in a lot of ways, I wouldn't be where I was without David Lowery. We spent a lot of our career opening for Cracker, and they really, you know, helped us along. Those guys were all, yeah.
That is a range of heroes right there.
Yep.
Adam Duritz, thank you, man. Butter Miracle, the complete suites is out in May. As we said, Spaceman in Tulsa, the first single is out now, and then a bunch of dates coming up all summer long.
All right, welcome back at Sound Up. Many thanks once again to Adam Duritz for joining. Definitely great to hear from him. We've got our new music picks. As we make our way out of here, I'm going to do mine really quickly, not too much explanation, except to say Lucius has a new record just out. I always have been a massive fan of theirs. It's self-titled, and with good reason. It is just the 4 of them, the way that they began. It is the Holly and Jesse, and their 2 bandmates. Dan, one of the band members, has produced this record, and the track that I picked was Gold Rush. That I don't remember. I don't think that that's the current single. It's a great record with a number of guest appearances on there that I thought were really fun and kind of surprising in a way. Adam Granduciel, I always hope I pronounce his name correctly. The War on Drugs. That's the guy that we're talking about. He makes an appearance on this record, and several other artists, Madison Cunningham. Dawes' Taylor Goldsmith makes an appearance on the record as well. And part of the reason I wanted to mention that part of this record is I know that there's some gigs upcoming with Lucius where it is, in fact, one of them is at I believe it's called the Croton Festival. It's a music festival mid-June in Croton-on-Hudson. And Lucius is appearing there with Taylor and Griffin Goldsmith. And the 4 of them, meaning Holly and Jesse and Taylor and his brother, have worked together before. So I'm curious what that gig is going to be like. But Taylor on the record, Madison Cunningham on the record as well. It's a story about them. Very personal album, a story about their life, their relationships, and their going through life and the position that they're at now. This kind of thing seems to be turning up with a lot of artists as the years pass. It's our story, who we are now, and how we got here. That's what the record is about. The other one I'll pick is Car Seat Headrest, Back. The Scholars is the name of the album. And 5 years, I didn't realize, but it's been 5 years since an album out from these guys. And what? It's a rock opera. I don't know.
Why not?
Why not? Sure. It was just out this past Friday, and I've listened to it through. It's It's huge. I've only had the weekend to do it. So I can't get into any real comments. There is one, the believe it or not, the single is a song called Gethsemane, which is 11 minutes. So you may not hear the whole version of that one on the radio.
Most things on here are pretty, let's say, sprawling.
Yes, as I guess you need to do. I don't know. It's set in a fictional college campus, Parnassus University, and the scholars focuses on a different student or staff member on each song to tell tales of life, death, and rebirth. But it's a cool record, and there's some rockers on there that are really fun. The song that I picked was The Catastrophe, in parentheses, good luck with that, man. Not the single, but one of my favorites on there. So new stuff from Seat Headrest as well.
I'm glad you went with them. I almost went with, and it may have been this song. I don't know. But my son went through a Seat Headrest thing a few years, I guess when that last record came back, that would make sense, 5 years ago. So I remain interested, and I have not fully committed to the concept here on this, but I've listened through to some, which
It's
I
a
do
commitment.
like.
It is a commitment.
And similarly, I'll mention as I switch over to my picks, I will stay true to that I don't want to pick multiple things from one album to bring to you as new music picks. So a few weeks back, I picked the first single from the New Era Church project, Evangeline versus the Machine. The album came out on Friday, and it's really, really good. I have to say, I don't know that I fully follow his theme concept on this project, though it's only about 38 minutes. It's short. It's 8 or 9 songs. And so you don't have to commit in the way that you have to commit to the Seat Headrest opus over there. But record is really, really good. So though I'm not going to point to another song now because I already did, that was actually the thing that I spent the most time listening to this weekend. But very happy always to say a new song from one of my favorite bands out there in the world today. The Beths from New Zealand have a new song and a new label. They have signed over with Anti Records, which I'm really happy about since Andy Culkin and that team do a great job with the very disparate roster that they have starting as a punk label and going into a whole lot of directions. And so no formal announcement of this is the first taste of a new album from the Beths, but I have to assume and hope that it is. A song called Metal, which is not an Iron Maiden tribute, though, in some ways, what isn't? But a song that Elizabeth Stokes says is really about her health journey, the other thing that everybody seems to be writing about now, that sort of came out of and followed their last tour a few years back, and the need to take care of yourself and to pace yourself. And I don't know if there's anything specific she went through, but the metal of the title is the metal in your blood. So I don't know if this is a specific iron deficiency, anemia song or what it is, but it's a little bit of a different sound for the Beths. A little more, they do a very sort of indie power pop thing, great guitar playing. And this is a little more sort of jangly, a little more, that whatever it is that means, whether that means R.E.M. or whether that means the Byrds to you, a little bit of a different guitar sound. And I think that what Elizabeth said is that it is a little bit more complicated arrangement, complicated playing to reflect a more complicated situation in life and going through these health challenges. But I love these guys. They announced a tour. They're not coming back through the States until later in the year. They're in New York in December, but any chance to go see them, I take advantage of. So Metal from the Beths is my first pick. And my other is as much for the backstory as anything. New recording from our friend Kacey Musgraves.
I left this one off my list.
Yeah, he does a cover of the song associated with Hank Williams, though written by a guy named Leon Payne. Lost Highway, one of the most famous country songs of all time. But it is no accident. She didn't just cover this for the sake of covering it. And I just wanted to, it's really the reason that she did it that I want to mention, which is that there's big reorganization happening of the Universal labels out of Nashville. They've rebranded. They have changed the name of the company back to MCA, which was what it was before they got absorbed and became the Universal Music Group Nashville or whatever. And around the turn of the millennium, let's say, Luke Lewis, who is an old friend of mine and one of the all-time great record executives, founded an imprint for the Universal labels, for the MCA labels, that he called Lost Highway. And that became the home for Willie Nelson, Lucinda Williams, the early Ryan Adams records. It really was the Drive-By Truckers, the center for the sort of alt country and country singer-songwriter world in Nashville. Impeccable taste. Every signing was great. They ended up putting out the last of the Johnny Cash, Rick Rubin projects after Deaf American folded, and then kind of took over the world when they did the Oh Brother, Where Art Thou soundtrack in 2001 or whenever that was, which sold millions of copies and won Album of the Year from the Grammys. The Lost Highway was shut down when Luke retired in about 2012, but as part of this reworking, they are bringing back the Lost Highway label. The last artist who was signed previous to shutting down was Kacey Musgraves. When I first met Kacey before her first album came out, she was a Lost Highway artist, and she is the first artist signed and the first to come out under the new resurrected Lost Highway imprint.
Perfect.
I'm dying to see what they can do with it. The music world was a very different place 20, 25 years ago. I always love labels that have a point of view, an identity. Anything that Lost Highway signed, I was interested in what it was going to be because it represented a certain kind of style and sensibility and batted as near 1,000 as a label can do. And I could almost argue that now that's more important. If you're going to be a label at all, if there's any reason to be a record company, having an identity and standing for something and being part of a roster that kind of places you in the world, those things seem maybe at least potentially more important now than they did when it was boom time in the music business. So I'm very, very interested to see what they do with this. Obviously, the symbolism of bringing Kacey back to sort of pick up the baton where she left it off is interesting to watch. So she does a lovely, very straight ahead version of one of the greatest songs of all time, and you should go and listen to it. Mark, I don't know if you know this. If you listen to it at the top, it's like you hear the sound of a radio dial tuning in, and then somebody says, and here's, singing that classic Lost Highway. That is Kacey's grandfather introducing her as the radio DJ, bringing her to the airwaves to sing this song. Very nice family touch. So Kacey Musgraves' version of Lost Highway, and hopefully a roadmap for the return of a very, very welcome imprint. That's my other pick.
Excellent. What do you got,
Roger? You got anything?
I have one. So on the day it was announced that Mike Peters had passed away, on the Alarm website was a post that just said Mike Peters, 25 February 1959, 25 April 2025. And under it, it said totally free. But if you clicked that post, there was a song from Mike called Totally Free, just addressing this next stage. And I just go check it out. I don't have the words, just check it out.
Fair enough.
God, I did not even know about.
Yeah.
Even I know I talked to your brother.
Yeah.
When I heard the news, and I've obviously read all the coverage, and still that little Easter egg passed by.
We didn't realize it at first too, because you have to click on the thing, but it's on the Alarm on Facebook. Yeah.
All right. So all of the music that we are talking about, if you want to get a listen to it, you can search our Sound Up Soundtrack playlist on Spotify. And when you're doing the search, don't forget to put the exclamation point after Sound Up. Or if you want a simple way to get to us, just go to sounduppod.com. There's a link right there that'll take you right to our Sound Up Soundtrack playlist. And that's going to wrap it up for us, this edition of Sound Up. Check us on socials for exclusive content and more, all at Sound Up Pod, and we thank you for listening.
Please remember to go give us a 5-star review on whichever platform you're listening, like our Facebook page, and make sure to check us out on Instagram, X, Blue Sky, and TikTok. And you can always email us your thoughts, concert reviews, any new music you're listening to and excited about, any questions that you've got, send as a voice message or just type it out into an email at connect@sounduppod.com.
Bye-bye, y'all.
Sound Up is hosted by Mark Goodman and Alan Light, produced by Roger That Media, distributed by Revolver Podcasts. Theme music by Smile from Tokyo. For more information, go to sounduppod.com. Roger that.